This belonged in Misteri Nusantara. Alright, hi guys and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to do a reading vlog on a short and sweet book of Micro Malaysians, edited by Anwar Hadi. So as I mentioned in my Malaysia Day video, Micro Malaysians is an anthology of microfictions that has no more than 150 words per story. So there are 100 stories here and they are very culture specific to Malaysia. If the video is going to be too long, I will be separating it in two parts so that it won't be so overwhelming. Let's get started on this reading, okay? Micro Malaysians is published under Novo Publication, which is also an imprint of buku fiksi. I have read a few of fiksi books and I'd say they're more of an indie publishing. They're actually really cool, except that the stuff that I read so far hasn't been the best thing. I'm actually still looking for things that suits me. The book is edited by Anwar Hadi, as I explained. He is a Malaysian YouTuber, and there's illustrations in the books by Karin Koh. And the illustrations, as I remember, they're all really cool. They are really great. I love them. There's this rustic quality to them. So there's an intro written by Anwar. When we first put out the call for entries for this compilation, our target was to get 500 submissions. After a couple of months, we got 1,163. From that, I was chosen to pick 100 of the best pieces to book into this book. After reading that many stories from so many writers, I can only conclude that writing an engaging, cohesive, and compelling story in 150 words or less is nothing short of remarkable. I am thoroughly convinced that I do not currently have what it takes to write something good enough to be able to make it into this book myself. I respect all these writers for doing what they have, and I can only hope that readers enjoy the stories in this compilation as much as I did. Also, much respect to Karin Koh for the mesmerizing illustrations she has contributed to this book. I have to agree that writing fiction in under 150 words is amazing. I tried and failed. There are some really amazing stories in there, and for me, I think I'm more of a novel person, novella. If you can make an impact in less than 200 words, that is amazing. So let's actually begin. So it's only fair that I start with the first story. So I'm going to show you, these are the illustration for the first story. Maybe from this, you can guess what it is about. The moment I tossed the gun on the floor was the very moment I realized my feelings for you had vanished. It had been 6 years since you started to beat me every time you come home. I couldn't tell anyone because who would believe me? An imam like you would never beat his wife and children. So every time people asked me about my scars and bruises, I'd concoct some story about me being clumsy and careless. Nisa is the most beautiful girl I've ever seen, and I won't let you ruin her like you ruined me. Seeing you on top of her finally snapped me out of my long dream. I let you abuse me because I loved you, but she doesn't deserve that. You, on the other hand, deserve to die, because my love for her hasn't vanished like mine for you. This is called Vanished by Julie Ann. I think I remembered seeing her name on a novel. I just don't remember what she wrote. So I think the man that she killed is actually her husband, who is an imam. And this just shows that, you know, just because you are a holy person does not mean that you are incapable of such feat, and that it is right for her to defend herself and to get out of the cycle of abuse and not letting him ruining other people's lives. It's dark, but it's also nice to see that someone's fighting back. Second story is called Tea Time with Grandma by Shaihan Shafiq. She took another bite of her biscuit mayat, nonchalantly dismissing the few ants crawling onto the plate. She didn't mind what's eating a few harmless ants going to do to her digestive system. The thought reminded her of what Grandma used to say, "Jangan makan benda bersemut, nanti jadi bodoh." The TV blared news about sneaky ministers smuggling billions of ringgit right under our noses. If you ask her, she would say all of us are stupid for still trusting our leaders. The rain stopped pouring. She knew that she eventually had to go out because she was feeling hungry. She reached for another biscuit mayat. Across from where she sat was a grandma, eyes glazed over like those of ikan kembung from Pasar Malam. "You're the stupid one, Nek," she said to her decomposing grandma while grabbing another biscuit mayat from the plate. I love this. I love this one because biscuit literally means cookies and mayat means corpse. No, biscuit mayat doesn't mean that it's a cookie made of corpse. No, biskomay just literally means just dry biscuit that is plain that you dip in tea. The plot twist is that the grandma has been dead all along, sitting right across her, a dead grandma. And then there's this imagery of her eating this biskut mayat along with some ants, and it says, oh, what's harm is gonna eat a few ants, because like my mom always used to say that don't eat anything that has ants in it, you know, and because you're gonna be forgetful. Eating bad food just bad for you in general. That's just basically the advice that elders are trying to give us. But in here it's ironic because, you know, she's like, yeah, it's not gonna affect me in any way until she forgets that her grandma is dead, or probably she forget to bury her grandma. And then the fact that it shows the TV blurred news about sneaky minister smuggling billions of ringgit right under our noses. She's also too stupid to still trusting in the politicians, and also too stupid to realize that her grandma is already dead and needs to be buried pronto. It's grim, but I like it. I like how short and shocking this is. Oh, number 3 is also very good. For Sale, also by Shaihan Shafiq. For sale, baby shoes never worn. That's what the advertisement read. She didn't know if she was supposed to be sad or delighted reading it. Her hands slowly crept onto her swelling belly. She could almost feel something kicking from inside. Was it a boy or a girl? She would not know. Would she care? Probably. She wondered if caffeine was going to be bad for the baby, as if she had the slightest inclination to care for the unborn child inside her. She took a pen from her purse. She then surprised herself by scribbling some words on the written advertisement. For sale, newborn baby, never loved. A smile appeared on her ruby red lips as she took another sip of coffee. Well, so far stuffs have been very dark. I think the only thing that is slightly positive is the first one, because it's about breaking the cycle of abuse. But the second and the third one, I think that I don't have to elaborate on this one. It says for itself. And it even has a really morbid illustration right over here. So we got 3 consecutive stories also by Shaihan Shafiq called Just a Regular Day for Her. This writer has a taste for dark stories. It took her another 10 minutes to maneuver her car out of the parking complex. It took her 37 minutes and 40 seconds to reach her office. It took her approximately 2 minutes to queue to get her regular double shot espresso at the cafe. It took her 40 minutes to get back home. It took her another 2 minutes of pacing back and forth while saying matilakau under her breath, seeing a lifeless body under her car. It took her a second to look around and see that no other witness was around. It took another 5 minutes for her to stuff the body into the car boot and drive away. I like how the title is Just Another Regular Day for Her, as if like the story itself is trying to erase whatever it is that's going on. So yeah, I actually like this. It's called Strange Positions in the Night by Hadi Shamsuddin. Why do I read this at 2 a.m? So I woke up and saw a shadowy figure standing at the foot of my bed. It turned out to be my husband's leg. He was lying on his stomach with one hairy leg banked up at a 90-degree angle, an almost dainty pose that was unlike him. I nudged it down again. The next night it happened again, but this time both legs stood to attention, giving the impression that there were now 2 figures staring at me. This would not do, of course. I pushed down both legs. The following night it happened once more, but this time there were 3 figures staring down at me. Yes, 3 hairy legs up in the air. I turned to look at my husband, who was asleep on his stomach, his face buried in his pillow. Then I remembered. My husband died 2 years ago on the Karak Highway. This belonged in Misteri Nusantara.
Usah biarkan hidup Anda diselubungi misteri.
So reading this book at 2 a.m. is definitely a bad idea. Am I reading Micro Malaysians, or am I actually reading Mastika? Another ghost story. Seriously, what is up with these ghost stories? Why? I'm not gonna tell the story, but guys, be careful on Tinder. Oh, we got sci-fi over here. I've never shown it to anyone, including your grandfather. Our family secret is in that journal. She unlocked it with a key from a locket, a gift from her grandmother. Sarah flipped open the cover and read the first entry. A chill went down her spine. It read, 20th July, 2157. The gateway is prepared, and my team and I can't wait to see what 1957 looked like. Riza Ramli turned this into a full novel. I think it'll be interesting. Oh, it's a sad pet story. Sorry. I miss my cat. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. Continue. Tug of war brews between her and the wind. The thought of losing her wow takes her back to the moment they told her that her father was gone. She wraps the cord around her little waist, her little hand, and jumps off the cliff. The wow flies her over the sea. They soar and disappear into the clouds. Oh, I like this one. It's called Teh Tarik Kurang Manis by Lilian Wee. I'd always thought it so adult of me to follow what he did. In my mind, only old men drink teh tarik, and it was strange but liberating that a 6-year-old girl like me would want to be treated like a grown-up. But the facade crumbled. I ordered a plate of roti canai with sugar. Hugh Kong looked at me with disdain and said, "Not curry, you're missing out on the good things in life." I think that it's kind of adorable that she's trying to follow the footstep of her granduncle. Having curry is probably another thing that she will follow. We're all eager to grow up when we were a kid, but then when we actually become adults, we're like, you know what, I want to be kid again. This was so me. Wow, this one is sad. It's called The Bee by Mei Chong. It stirred but seemed unwilling to sting or fly away. Sugar, he thought. It needed sugar. The bee clambered onto his offering, tiny tongue eagerly probing and lapping up the juice. Given a little time, it would regain its strength and fly off into the world again. Satisfied, Halim returned to his desk, feeling like he'd done something good for the world for once. When he left the office, the bee was exactly where he'd left it, squashed flat in a sticky puddle of guts and orange juice. He'd stood there for a long time, white-knuckled, blinking back hot tears he couldn't rightly explain. It's kind of like this. You thought you were doing something good without even understanding like the effects, the consequences of your actions. And then once you see the consequences, you realize like, oh shit, I fucked up. It's like the saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for it.
You teach him to fish, you give him no.
Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man how to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Well, you cannot say the same with the bees, of course, but it's kind of had that feel to it, you know. Oh, I really like this one. It's called Killer Queen by Hijas Farun. You know nothing's gonna change, right? We'll always be held down just because we weren't born with a pair of testicles. That's exactly why people like you should climb to the top so you can grab them by those testicles and give them a good shake. Remembering that conversations gives her a chuckle. The hundreds of men in the line in front of her suggest she already achieved that, and she didn't need to climb the corporate ladder to do it. All it took was Mak's sambal recipe. It's really nice to see that in a woman to achieve independence and freedom, you don't have to sacrifice your femininity to it. You don't have to sacrifice being a lady, being a woman, being feminine. And I like that about this story. Aw, I think I should send this one to my friend. I like coffee very much. I miss making my pour-over coffee, whether in the quiet of an air-conditioned cafe or over the rowdy mess at the mama. I care little how my coffee tastes, so long as it is black, moderately scorches the throat, and in the presence of fine company. For it is time spent with a dear friend, a moment more fragrant than the finest blend. Oh, this one is a bit controversial. Bad Date by Ao Thang Lin. He wouldn't drink from the mineral water bottle because Batu Caves was not his place of worship, and Lord Muruga's visage on the label offended him. He wouldn't share my pretzel dog because pretzel was first made by the Christians, and Facebook said hot dogs had dog meat, so its open sale offended him further. He stormed out of the cinema because a foreign film about the mythical demigod of an unrelated island folk glorified the fall of his faith, and it offended him greatly. So I asked him if my infidel pork-filled semen offended him when he swallowed it last night. I haven't heard from him since. Well, this one is a bit, well, I wouldn't say controversial. I'd say it probably happened somewhere in the society. I mean, Malaysia is heavy on censorship when it comes to things that come out on television. And for me, I don't mind that. I mean, in the world where everyone, every country, every culture is racing to be super liberal, you know, in portraying sex, in portraying all those things, it's fine that we're the way we are. And you know, if you want to watch something else, there's always Netflix. But it's good that we have books like this, because it opens up like, hey, this happens in society. And me, this is gonna be a hot take. I'm not mad at him for, I don't know, dating this guy. I'm mad at him for being a hypocrite. I'm mad at him for being those annoying people, for one of those people that's like, oh, hot dog, did you guys know that hot dogs have dog meat in it? And there was actually a controversy a few years back that hot dogs shouldn't be called hot dogs. There are more important things to focus on. Why are you fixated on that? The reason why I'm not really mad at him for doing the nasty with the guy, because at the end of the day, it's between him and God, and it's not as if he doesn't know that what he did was wrong in the eyes of the religion. But at the same time, I feel like, don't be a hypocrite. Don't be one of those people that's like, oh, I don't eat alcohol, but I am willing to have sex with you. Be consistent at the very least in your practice. These kind of people actually piss me off more than people who are very forthcoming about their shittiness in their religious practice. Oh, this one's very controversial. Sajjad is probably gonna love the story.
Why are you gay?
Oh, it's the cover. See? Alright, maybe a little bit of context on why the cover for Micro Malaysians is a bit controversial. Is fine, because I guess it's for marketing purposes. They want people to get really curious about what the story is about through the cover, and I'd say it's working, because the cover is very eye-catching. A lot of people have misconception that Muslims do not like dogs. That is absolutely wrong. It's not that we hate them. We don't hate dogs. I actually find dogs really cute. We can't have them. I'm pretty sure, I think there are Malaysian families own dogs for guard purposes, or maybe they just have them as pets. It doesn't matter. The problem is that we have to do a cleansing ritual. We can touch them, sure, no problem. We have Muslim vets who have to touch dogs on a daily basis. You can't help it because of the occupation. And it's not like we hate dogs. It's the cleansing ritual that we find really fussy, because we have to pray, and if someone tells me like, oh, just don't do the cleansing ritual, God doesn't know. Well, I don't want to have this kind of argument. Well, if you think that God only exists in one place, then that's your definition of God, not mine. And personally, I have no problem with people, if seeing a Malay person go and touch dogs, I have no problem with that. It's not because I don't care, it's because it's personal responsibility to do a cleansing ritual afterwards. And the cleansing ritual is not an uncommon knowledge among Malay Muslims. It's one of the first things that we learn. Yeah, I mean, like, if you don't do a cleansing ritual afterwards, that's kind of on you. So this one is called A Will by Nur Atira Razi. Trips to Rato's house used to be joyful until he died of lung cancer. His 5 children, including Hasna's father and her nene, were discussing his will. Atok left them a fortune. He might have regretted saving that much if he could see what Siti was seeing now. They were yelling and calling each other names. I want you to lift the Quran and swear while you say it's his will. Silence. Hasna looked up and swept her phone camera on. A video would definitely get more likes than just a plain old status update. Not only it shows the generational difference, but it also shows this gap between the 3 generations. The grandparents, and then the parents, and then the kids themselves. My father died in 2012, and I have faced this situation. Not as loud as this, but definitely more painful. Oh gosh, it really tells you a lot about people. Just because they go to church every day, just because they go to the mosque every Friday, just because they went to temple every morning, does not make them automatically a good person. You don't know who they are behind closed doors. Thus, more animals were drawn to the rambutan tree, eating from it and spreading its seeds far across the island. Many new rambutan trees grew, while the durian tree continued to shun lesser creatures and produce its thorny fruit. Many years later, when both trees were old and dying, the old rambutan was surrounded by his friends and family, while the durian tree was left desolate and alone. I like this because it says a lot on the idea of knowledge itself. It's that when you're trying to be an elitist, you know, you just ended up shunning people. I remember feeling this way, like experiencing this elitist thought when I attended this talk where this person, he's like this really a big shot professor. You know, I respected him, but then he began to say this is why people read low quality literature like Sophie Kinsella and Kevin Kwan was Kevin Kwan. He mentioned Kevin Kwan. I was like, what's wrong with Kevin Kwan? But sure, like not everybody loves Kevin Kwan, but he's not a bad writer. And I think like just outright saying just because Kevin Kwan is not a Booker Prize winner like Arabin Adiga does not make Kevin Kwan any less of a writer. I mean, he managed to entertain people, garnered an audience, have fans, have his book adapted into a movie, and a good movie at that, and it's pretty much an accomplishment. I mean, it's probably not like Oscar level or Booker Prize level, but that does not make his book any less good. It's good in his level and in his genre, because I expect people like him to be more, you know, inclusive, to be more open. Did not expect him to be like that. So don't be a durian, be a rambutan. Although both fruits are my favorite and they're very delicious. I think I will stop here for part 1. So see you in part 2.